Welcome to Acera's new employee / mid-career seminar. In this seminar, we're assuming that you're either new or you're somewhere in the middle of your career, hence the name of the seminar. So the bottom line there, the reason why we named it that is because you're not yet near retirement, most of you. And that's a good thing because it means that you still have plenty of time to plan for retirement. So in this seminar, I'm going to tell you all the things that you might want to know about doing that planning. And since you're curious enough about retirement planning to watch this, you probably have some questions already. Questions like, what do I need to know about my pension? Do I need to do anything? And if I need to do anything, what do I need to do? Okay, so we're going to answer all of those questions and more during the presentation. I have organized the presentation and the answers to all of your questions into the form of this checklist that we're going to go through. So here's what we're going to cover today. I will help you understand some retirement basics. We'll start at the beginning and I'll help you understand what Acera is and what we do. I will help you understand some pension math. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it helps you plan for your future retirement and it helps you maximize what that retirement is going to be. If you understand the three concepts that go into calculating what the benefit is that you're earning, and that's the retirement formula. I will also talk about purchasing service credit. That will help you maximize your retirement as well, or could help you maximize your retirement. I'll talk about getting a pension estimate. I'll show you how to do that so you can take a little peek into the future to see what kind of pension benefit you can expect. I'll help you understand retirement eligibility because at some point you become eligible to retire. It's not something that you start out with. And so I'll talk all about that. I'll help you understand some additional benefits like healthcare benefits. We'll touch on that very briefly. I will help you designate your beneficiary or beneficiaries and keep them up to date. And then we'll talk about career planning options. And what I mean by that is if you should ever, or when you should finally leave your job, because you're not immortal and you're not going to be in your job forever. Okay. So what are your different options when you do finally leave your job, including retirement? Then I'll help you make a retirement planning picture, which is where we're going to start right now. We'll take a peek into the future and I'll help you figure out whether you're on a trajectory toward having enough money in retirement. And as part of that discussion, we'll talk about starting a 457B account so you can save extra money if you choose or if you need to. And we will actually have an entire presentation from our deferred compensation specialist with the county about the 457B plan. And then we'll talk briefly about signing up for Acera News. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right in. First of all, let me help you understand some pension basics. We'll start at the beginning of the story with who is Acera? Acera, in one sense, is this acronym, the Alameda County Employees Retirement Association. But Acera is made up of a lot of people. There are about 90 of us that work at Acera. We're all county employees. So Acera is a agency, a local government agency. And what we do, the 90 of us do, is we provide retirement, disability, and death benefits to our members. That is all of you. You are members of Acera, so you are also part of Acera. And you are part of Acera because of the position that you work in and who you work for. So you either currently work full-time or at some point in the past you worked full-time in a retirement eligible position for one of the 6 local county agencies, including Alameda County, that use Acera to provide retirement benefits to their employees. That includes Alameda County, Alameda Health System, Superior Court of California, First 5, Housing Authority, and Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District. So if you work for one of these agencies and you're in that retirement eligible position, that means that at some point you did work full-time or you currently work full-time in that position, then you automatically become an Acera member. And as an Acera member, you start earning credit toward retirement and you start paying into Acera because with every paycheck, you'll see part of your paycheck come out in the form of your employee contribution to Acera's fund. And I actually have a screenshot of what that might look like. So this is a county pay stub. And if you look at the before tax deductions column, because the money that you're paying into Acera comes out before taxes, which means it lowers your tax liability while you're still working, you will see a line that says retirement, and you'll see some money coming out of your check and going into Acera's fund. Every time that happens, your employer also makes a contribution on your behalf. So you are paying into the fund with every check. Your employer is paying into the fund also. And we don't want that money to just sit around and collect dust. So what we do is we invest it in a diverse array of investments all over the world, and we earn a lot of interest on the contributions that you are providing to us. And it's these three sources of income, what you're paying in, what your employer's paying in, and the earnings from our investments that give us this large pool of money that we call Acera's fund. So what do we do with that money? Why are we collecting this money? Well, meanwhile, you are working in that retirement eligible position, which means while you work during your entire career, you're earning credit toward retirement. Then at some point in the future, you will stop working and stop earning credit toward retirement, and you will retire and start collecting the retirement that you've earned. The retirement that you've earned will come in the form of a monthly check that you will receive every month for the rest of your life. It's also known as a retirement allowance, a lifetime monthly retirement allowance, a retirement benefit, pension payment, pension check. These are all synonyms for the same concept. The lifetime monthly retirement allowance that you've earned that you will receive every month for the rest of your life in retirement. So you cannot outlive your retirement. It is a powerful tool to help you pay for your retirement that you have earned and that you can count on for the rest of your life. It is very special to participate in a pension like Acera, a defined benefit pension plan. One of the things that I like to point out, one of the ways that you can think about how special it is that all of the money that you contribute to Acera during your entire career, during this portion where you are working and earning credit toward retirement and paying into Acera's fund, when you retire, we're going to give you all that money back that you paid in during your entire career, and we're going to give it back to you through those monthly payments within the first 3 to 5 years of your retirement. Everything after that, for the rest of your life, after the first 3 to 5 years, is almost like this amazing bonus that you get just for participating in this system. But really, the way it works is that it's the investment earnings that pay for 3/4 of your lifetime pension. So you're deferring some of your wages. You're saying, I'm not going to take my wages home. I'm going to pay them into Acera. And then so I'm going to defer some of my wages. Acera invests them, and the success of our investments pays for 3/4 of your lifetime pension, in addition to your employer's contributions. So it's a really amazing system that you get to participate in. There is a question on the board: is the pension system going to be solvent over the next 15 to 20 years? The answer is yes. The pension system has to be solvent by state law, and whatever adverse investment experience that happens with Acera's fund, if there's some downs in the short term, the employer is on the hook for paying the extra that it takes to fully fund Acera. So you will, if you look at our contributions page, if you search for contributions on our website, I'll show you where to find that a little bit later. And you look at the employer contribution rate, you'll see that it's actually higher than the employee contribution rate. And that's because the employer is making up some ground, because we don't yet have 100% of the money we need to pay out all the benefits that we owe now and in the future. So what we need is, for every dollar that we owe now and in the future, we need to have $1 in the fund. And that means that we're 100% funded. We're not quite there. We're about 86% funded currently, but it's growing every single year because the employer makes those extra contributions, and our actuary calculates this every year to determine what those extra contributions need to be so that they continue to gain ground every year until they get back up to 100% funded. And the employer is on the hook by law to do that. And all of the employers always make 100% of their required contributions every year. So the pension system here in Alameda County is extremely solvent and will continue to be solvent from now into perpetuity. But thank you for that question. Okay, so let me show you some pension milestones that you can expect to see along the way with your career regarding your ACERA membership. And this will help contextualize a lot of the concepts that we're going to talk about later if I show you these milestones first. So we have first your date of hire. This is your first day of work in your full-time retirement eligible position. This could be, if you got hired right into that position, the first day that you actually went to work. Or if you started out in some other capacity, like you worked part-time or you worked for the county's temporary assignment pool, and then you got hired into that full-time retirement eligible position, this would be your first day of work in that position. Okay, then for most people, what happens is 2 weeks goes by, and the first day of your second pay period, that is your date of entry into ACERA, also known as your first day of ACERA membership. This is the day when you start earning credit toward retirement. Now, there are two employers, I believe it's the Housing Authority and Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District, where your date of entry is actually also your date of hire. So there's no 2-week lag. But for the county and everyone else, there's a 2-week lag. Okay, now that you're an ACERA member, you're in ACERA, you're earning credit toward retirement. What happens is 5 years goes by. So you work 5 full-time years, or the equivalent of 5 full-time years. And after that, you're considered vested in the retirement system. And vesting is a little bit of a loose concept, but it kind of just means guaranteed. So the vested benefits are the guaranteed benefits. And a lot of them start with you reaching 5 years of service credit with ACERA. Okay, so the next thing that happens is at some point after that, you become eligible to retire. And there may be a few people that, depending on your age, you may be eligible to retire as soon as you're vested. So these could be the same date. But for many people, the retirement eligibility date is after that. And it's going to be different for everyone because it's some combination of your years of service credit and your age. And I'll show you what the different combinations are that get you to retirement eligibility a little bit later in the presentation. But this is the first day that you could actually physically retire from ACERA. This is the first day that you're eligible. You can do that, or like many people do, you can keep working after that and keep earning more and more credit toward retirement. And I will tell you in just a few minutes the 3 categories in which you're earning credit toward retirement the longer that you work. Okay, so the next date that goes by is your termination date / then your retirement date. The reason that I have these kind of on top of each other is that the majority of people, and I'm not saying that everyone is going to do this, and you may not do this, but the majority of people who retire from ACERA will work their job, their county or local agency job, and then they will retire directly from active work, which means that your termination date will be the day right before your retirement date. And so they're very similar dates. But you're actually going to earn service credit from your date of entry all the way up to your termination date. And then if you're going straight into retirement, the next day would be your first day of retirement. And that is when you start collecting the retirement that you've earned throughout your career. Okay, now there are 2 more dots on the timeline, 2 more milestones. Your death is on here because that's when your pension payments stop, because I mentioned a few minutes ago that you will receive your lifetime monthly pension payments, your lifetime retirement allowance every month for the rest of your life. So you're going to get that all the way up until your death. Okay, and then another thing could happen. At the time of retirement, you're going to have the choice of different retirement options, and most of them will allow you to leave a continuance to a beneficiary. And in most cases, it's a lifetime continuance. So your beneficiary could get continuing monthly payments after your death until their death. And that's when all the pension benefits stop. Okay, I see there's a few questions on the board. What about provisional hiring to full-time positions? Once probation is approved for provisional employment, are you grandfathered for ACERA membership from the time of hire? So I'm like 98% sure, but you will want to verify this. And you could verify this by logging into your account on our website, or you could write into us at our contact page, acera.org/contact, or you could call us at 510-3, let me see, what is it? 628-3000, or acera.org/contact. And the reason I'm giving you our contact information is if you want to know the answer to that, like the definitive answer, you're going to have to ask one of my colleagues, because I'm only 98% sure that the provisional employment all counts as your ACERA membership. You're already, like, as soon as you're hired in that position, even if it's provisionally, on the first day of your second pay period, then you would become an ACERA member and you'd start earning credit toward retirement. And you can, if you look in your ACERA online account, you'll probably see the service credit accumulating even if you're still provisional. Okay, next question. If you go from one ACERA employer to another, does the 5-year vesting date start over? No, it does not. It's cumulative, it's combined. And in fact, there's another concept which I will talk about in detail in the second half of the presentation, called reciprocity, where you can even go out and get a job with a different California pension system that we have reciprocity with, and link the pension systems together. And then again, in that same scenario, the 5 years does not start over for vesting. So if you had 3 years at ACERA, and then you go over to Contra Costa County and work 2 years and establish reciprocity and link the systems together, the 5 years combined would get you over the vesting requirement. But we'll go into reciprocity a little bit later. But to your question, if you started out in at Alameda County, went over to Alameda Health System, the cumulative service credit that you've earned would get you over the vesting requirement and the retirement eligibility requirements. And then there's a question: if I leave the county and work elsewhere, but I'm part of vesting, do I still get the pension when I retire? As long as you reach retirement eligibility, as soon as you reach retirement eligibility, you are eligible for the pension benefits. So the answer would be yes. So let's say that you work here for 5 years, you quit, you go work somewhere else, doesn't matter where. As soon as you reach retirement eligibility, like one of the basic combinations, for like tier 4, for example, is you're at least age 52 and you have at least 5 years of service credit. If you meet those requirements, then you would be eligible to retire from ACERA, even though you're working somewhere else. But I'll go into all that in the second half of the presentation, when we talk about career planning. Okay, so another quick word about vesting. The guarantee comes from state law. The state law is called the 1937 Act, County Employees Retirement Law. So there's a bunch of different code sections in state law that tell us how to run ACERA, that describe what the rules are for us to run ACERA. And so we do everything by state law, and the guarantee comes from state law. The vested benefits, the guaranteed benefits, are that retirement allowance that we've been talking about, lifetime monthly retirement allowance, an annual cost of living increase to that retirement allowance in retirement, and a $1,000 lump sum death benefit. Okay, so let me tell you about your tier, because every one of you has a tier. If you're in a tier, if you're a safety member, you may be in 2 tiers. So, and that's the difference between the tiers is you'll see as we go along and I tell you more details about how the pension system works, but there's slight differences in how we calculate things and how we do things depending on what tier you're in. So it's good to know what tier you're in. So first of all, you need to know if you're a safety member or a general member. Safety members are sheriff's deputies and probation officers, and there could be some other sworn officers in there that I'm not familiar with. Those are safety members. So you would be looking at the bottom timeline. Now, everyone else is a general member. So you would be looking at the top timeline unless you're a general member working for the Housing Authority or a general member working for Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District, and then you're going to look at the timeline for your employer. The way these work is, if you entered ACERA, your first day of ACERA membership, remember, if you entered ACERA before the cutoff date for the tier, you go into the earlier tier. So for example, there's probably no tier 1 people in, watching this and participating in this, but because tier 1 ended a long time ago. But just to give you an example, if you entered ACERA prior to July 1st, 1983, that would put you in tier 1. Now, if you entered ACERA July 1st, 1983, all the way up to December 31st, 2012, that would put you in tier 2. If you entered ACERA January 1st, 2013 and beyond, as a general member, that would put you in tier 4. So that's the way these cutoff dates work. And the tier 4 date is the same for all of the different timelines and employers. You'll see that the Housing Authority has a couple of different, has a different cutoff date for tier 2. LARPD has a different tier. And safety members have a few different tier 2s. I said a moment ago that for safety members, you might have 2 tiers, and it's because often safety members will start out working as general members. So you'll put in some work as a general member, and then you will go through the Sheriff's Deputy Academy, or, however you get your safety position. And then once you're appointed a safety member, then whatever service credit that you're earning in that safety membership will be in the safety tier that you're in. And then when we go to calculate your retirement, we'll do 2 different calculations for you. One for the safety service credit that you're in, and one for the general member service credit. That's going to make a lot more sense in just 1 minute when I show you the retirement formula. So hold on to your questions about that. Okay, what you're seeing here is not the retirement formula. This is a slide that I like to show you to kind of give you a greater context for the discussion that we're having. So the reason that we're here, the reason that we're talking about this is because we want to fully understand what the future holds for you regarding your retirement, what the rules are, what the ins and outs are, what the kinds of things are that you can do to strategize and plan for the future. So what you're looking at here, this equation is sort of a picture, in one sense, of your income, your future income in retirement. And what financial planners will tell you when you talk to them is that in order to maintain your standard of living in retirement that you enjoyed just prior to retirement, you will need to have as your retirement income, it needs to be 70 to 80% of whatever your salary was when you were working right before you retired. Okay. And that income, that retirement income, because you're not going to be working anymore, so you're going to need money to pay for your life, can come from a few different places. One of those is going to be your ACERA monthly pension. Another is going to be Social Security, unless you're a safety member and you're not paying into Social Security. And then the third place will be your own personal savings and investments. And so these are kind of the 3 basic categories. Anything that's not a pension or Social Security can be categorized as your own personal savings and investments. Okay. And this might seem maybe a little onerous at this point, especially if you're a new employee. You just started here. Like, do I really need to think that far into the future? Am I really going to be able to do that? How do I get there? It's actually not that complicated, and I will walk you through it toward the end of the presentation about how to get pointed at having 70 to 80% salary replacement when you retire through a combination of these sources. And so I'm going to talk a lot about your ACERA monthly pension, show you the nuts and bolts of how that works. And then we will revisit this slide, and I'll start talking about how to get pointed in the trajectory of 70 to 80% income replacement. So we'll return to this discussion. Okay, next ACERA topic. Let me help you understand some pension math. And the pension math is not complicated. So if you're not a math person, it's just this multiplication. There's 3 things in it. And let me just walk you through this. Okay. So what you're seeing here is the multiplication. This is the retirement formula that we will use when you go to retire. And this will determine what your monthly payment is that you're going to get every month for the rest of your life. Again, you're known as your monthly retirement allowance or your pension benefit or your retirement benefit. So this sentence up here is describing in English what is happening in this multiplication. When you go to retire sometime in the future, what you are going to get as your monthly payment is going to be a percentage of your highest salary for each year of service that you work. Okay? Let me give you some numbers and it will help illustrate this concept a little bit easier. Let's say, for example, that the percentage of your highest salary that you're going to get for each year of service is 2%. And let's say that your years of service credit when you retire is exactly 20 years. So that means that you worked full-time for 20 years or the equivalent of full-time for 20 years, and you earned exactly 20 years of service credit with Acera. Okay, so that means that your retirement allowance is going to be 2% of your highest salary for each one of those 20 years that you worked, that you earned credit for. So if we take the 2% for each one of the 20 years, we're basically multiplying these together. That means that you're going to get 40% of your highest salary. Now let's give you some more numbers. Let's say that your highest salary is $5,000. That's your highest monthly salary when we averaged it out. So we are going to multiply the $5,000 times the 40% because you're going to get 40% of this $5,000. 40% of $5,000 is $2,000. And that is your retirement allowance that you will get every month for the rest of your life. Okay. So the bottom line here, you don't need to remember a lot of these details, but if you remember one thing, just remember that because this is a multiplication, the higher any of these numbers are, the higher the age factor percentage, the higher the service credit, the higher the salary that you earn, that equals a higher monthly retirement allowance. So the way to maximize your retirement allowance is to have a higher age factor percentage by getting older. That one's easy. And I'll show you how that works in just a second. To work more years, to earn more years of service credit, and to have higher and higher salaries as your career progresses. And when I said earlier that you're earning credit toward retirement, these are the 3 categories you're earning credit toward retirement in. You're earning credit toward retirement by having higher and higher age factor percentages by getting older. You're earning credit, and this one's easy to understand because this is time basically. You're earning credit the more time that you work. And it's measured in years of service credit. And with the salary, you're earning credit by having higher and higher salaries through cost of living increases and raises. Okay, so let me tell you more details about each one of these things because you probably have some questions. How do I, what's the age factor percentage going to be for me? How do I earn service credit? When do I not earn service credit? Can I get extra service credit? What salary is going to be included in this calculation? I'll answer all those questions. Let me tell you about the age factor percentage first. Okay. So the question is, because the example that I gave you 2%. It's not necessarily going to be 2%. It could be something different. The question is, what percentage of your highest salary will you get for each year of service that you work? Well, we will figure that out at the time of your retirement by looking at your tier and seeing what age you retire at. So what you're seeing here is a sample age factor percentage chart. And what you're going to do is just look at your tier. Okay, so if you're a general member in tier 4, you just look at that one column. If you're a safety member in tier 2B, you just look at that column. Okay. And the way this works is, let's say that you're a general member and you're in tier 4 and you go to retire at age 57. Well, we are going to need to put numbers in that formula. So we're going to come over to the sample age factor chart. We're going to go to tier 4 general. We're going to come down to age 57, and we're going to see that the percentage there is 1.50%. So that means if you retired as a general tier 4 member at age 57, excuse me, you would get 1.50% of your highest salary for each year of service. Now you'll notice that the older you are when you retire, the higher the percentages get, up to a maximum. The blue box represents the maximum age factor percentage for each tier. So for general tier 4, it's 2.50%. For general tier 2, it's 2.43%. It's a little bit lower, but you can get it earlier at age 65. Now, if you retire older than the age at which you reach the maximum age factor percentage for your tier, you just simply get whatever the maximum is. So if you're a general tier 2 member and you retire at 66 or 67 or 68, you would still get the 2.43%. Okay. And there's a question up on the board, define the tiers again. Okay, the tier is based on when you entered ACERA. So you are in one of these tiers based on your date of ACERA entry. So if you entered ACERA, for example, January 1st, 2013, or after, that puts you in tier 4 if you're a general member. And so safety members are sheriffs, deputies, and probation officers. General members is everyone else. And if you're in the housing authority or LARPD, you look at these timelines. So that's how you figure out what tier you're in. The other way to verify what tier you're in is by logging into your account on our website. So you just go to acera.org, press the login button. If you've never created an account, you create an account. And once you get in there, it will tell you what tier you're in. But it's based on these cutoff dates, based on your date of entry into ACERA. And if you remember, your date of entry is your first day of your second pay period with ACERA in your full-time retirement eligible position. Okay. So the age factor percentages, there was going to be one more thing I was going to say. Oh, yeah. Another thing that you may notice about the age factor percentages is that I skipped a bunch of dates, and that's actually because there's so many incremental increases that they don't fit on the slide because the percentages actually increase every quarter year that you don't retire. So every quarter year that you get older based on your birthday and you pass one of those dates, there's an incremental increase. There's a slightly higher age factor percentage. So for example, if you looked at the full chart, it would say like 57, 57 and a quarter, 57 and a half, 57 and 3/4, 58, and so on and so forth. And there would be a little percentage increase for each one of those. And it's based on your birth date. So if your birth date is January 15th, you just add 3 months, April 15th, add another 3 months, April, May, June, July 15th, and then another 3 months, October 15th, back to your birthday, January 15th. So every time you pass one of those days and get another quarter year older, you go up one notch in the age factor chart. Get another quarter year older and don't retire. Okay. That's a lot of information, especially for any of you who are new employees. So if you only remember one thing about the age factor percentages, just remember the bottom line here is that the older the retirement age equals a higher age factor percentage up to the max for your tier. I see a couple of questions just popped up. Exactly. So the question is, as a tier 2 member who left and came back to the county, it sounds like you did not take a withdrawal of your contributions. And that's whenever you stop working in your job, one of your options is to take a withdrawal of your contributions. And that means that you're canceling your ACERA membership and losing all your service credit with ACERA. It sounds like you did not do that. You left it on deposit and then you came back to work here. And that is why you're in tier 2, because your date of entry into ACERA is sometime from your previous membership. And it sounds like that was sometime before 2004. And so that is why you're in tier 2. 1999. Yep. So that is why you're in tier 2. Okay, let's see. What if I'm 72, retiring next year, but only worked with the county for 5 years? So, okay, the question is, and so this is an interesting question. You're age 72, you're retiring next year, worked with the county for 5 years. So my assumption is you're in tier 4 because you started working in the last 10 years when tier 4 was created 10 years ago. So that means that, and also you say 2.5%. So you're 72, which is older than the 67. So you would get the 0.25%, even though you, like, as you say, you've only worked for 5 years before you're retiring. The amount of service credit that you earn is a different category of credit toward retirement than the age factor percentage. So they don't really, they don't necessarily influence one another. So we're just going by, for the age factor category, what age you are at retirement, and it sounds like it'll be 72. So you will get 2.50% of your highest salary for each one of those 5 years of service. Okay, somebody's asking, I guess you're looking at your account on our website, and it says, what does N/I mean after my tier? It says general tier 4 N/I. I think what it means is not integrated, which and it sounds like you are not paying into Social Security. You're not Social Security integrated. So it sounds like you might be a safety member. And it just simply means that you're not paying into the Social Security system. Okay, next question. Why do many retirees choose to retire in March? Just really quickly, the reason that they do that is because they're already ready to retire. They're in the springtime, so they're going to retire in the spring. And the annual cost of living adjustment cutoff date is April 1st. So in your first year of retirement, if you retire on or before April 1st, you'll get the cost of living increase kind of immediately because it comes right up if you retire in March. So you have your retirement that we calculate, and then you get like an immediate 2% increase or whatever it is that year. And so that's very alluring to people who are already going to retire in the spring. So they go ahead and do that. And in fact, if they retired after April 1st, immediately after, they would not make as much money. So that's why they do that. The next question is, do these factors ever change, or the percentage is fixed? The percentages are fixed. These are written into the law that governs each one of the tiers. And so when you get into that tier, this is the fixed set of percentages that you can expect throughout your entire career. So these are fixed. Okay, so there's a follow-up. You're not in safety. I believe I do pay Social Security on each paycheck. I suggest either calling in to us or writing in. And I'll post the contact info again to ask that question to my colleagues, because if there is if you're in a mistaken category, we would want to go ahead and get that corrected earlier than later. So I recommend going ahead and calling in just to verify that. Okay, and there's a question about salary, which I will get to in a few minutes after I talk about service credit. So we talked about the age factor percentage. Let me tell you about service credit, and then I'll talk about salary. So you begin earning service credit toward retirement on your first day of Acera membership. And I said this earlier, but let me say it again. You will earn service credit throughout your entire career as you work, all the way up until your last day of work. The service credit is measured in years. So if you go online and you look at the amount of service credit that you've already earned, it will say like 5.642872. And all those decimal places are as calculating your service credit down to the fraction of a week. And you get all of that, all those decimal places in the formula when you actually go to retire. So that means you're earning service credit right up until you stop working with the SARA or stop working with your employer. You earn service credit during your regular work hours. That's the main time that you earn service credit. You also earn service credit during your earned leave times. So when you're out on your earned vacation leave, when you're out on sick leave or management leave or comp time or holidays or floating holidays, you are already earning service credit during those types of time. And so those do not count against you for the purposes of calculating your retirement in the future. You earn service credit for all that time. Now, in contrast, there are some times when you do not earn service credit. If you're ever out on leave without pay, you're not earning service credit during that time. Okay, purchased vacation. Some of our employers will allow you to purchase additional vacation on top of your earned vacation. And when you go out on the purchased vacation, when you mark that on your timesheet, like you mark a week of purchased vacation, you're not earning service credit during that time. So that's a little bit of the bad news. It's not actually a big deal because losing a week here or there because you purchased extra vacation is not going to amount to much of a change in your retirement allowance when you finally go to retire. I mean, it'll be like probably less than $1. So I would not sweat that. If you need to take a purchase vacation, go out on a purchase vacation. Okay, sold vacation, different concept. Sold vacation is where you take your earned vacation and you don't go out on the vacation, you sell it back to your employer for cash. If you do that, you get cash, but you don't get service credit. Okay, now you also do not earn service credit during overtime, on-call time, or standby time. And I see a few questions on here. Let me check those out. Will service credit reflect years from other spots if you're using reciprocity? No. If you log into your account on Acera and you already have reciprocity with a different retirement system, for example, a different county in California, you will not see that service credit in our system. You will have to log into their system to see your service credit over there. And that's because we're only going to calculate your retirement based on your service credit that you earn here. And when you go to retire from them, you retire from both systems on the same day. They will do a calculation for you over there based on your service credit over there. Okay, so, and we'll each send you a check, so you'll get paid from both systems. Okay, this is, and thank you for this question. This is returning to something that I said I was gonna talk more about later. So you worked as a general member for 15 years in Tier 2, which is also known as Tier 2A. Now you're a safety member in Tier 2B. How are we going to calculate your pension? What we're going to do, let me go back to the formula. So let's say that you work 10 years as in your safety membership. We're going to do two of these calculations for you. For the general calculation, we'll take your Tier 2A age factor percentage, multiply it by the 15 years you worked as a general member, multiplied by your highest average salary. That gives us a dollar amount. Separately, on the second calculation, we'll take your safety age factor percentage, multiply it by your, I was throwing out 10 years of service credit if you work in the safety for 10 years, multiplied by your highest salary. In both calculations, the salary number is going to be the same, but the age factor percentage and the service credit will be different. The second calculation will give us another dollar amount. What we do is we will add those two dollar amounts together and send you one check, one retirement check in retirement. And so that's how we calculate that. If you go online and do the online calculator in your account, it will do all that for you. So you don't even have to think about that. You don't have to do two calculations or anything. It will compile everything and do all that for you. Okay. So there's some questions about salary on here. So I'll wait to talk about those. Like the salary cap, I will get to that in a few minutes. There's a question about service credit purchase. I'll address that right now. Really quick, which plans are eligible for reciprocity? You, as an Acera member, it doesn't matter what employer you work in for Acera, any of our 6 employers, you can, if you go get another public agency job with another California agency, you can establish reciprocity. And I'll talk more about that when I talk about reciprocity. Okay, and then there's another couple of service credit questions. So I'll go through the whole, I'll go through the service credit topic, and then I'll come back to these questions. Okay, so because the retirement formula is a multiplication, and because I told you that the higher any of those numbers are, including service credit, the higher your retirement allowance is going to be. So basically, the more credit that you earn in toward retirement in those 3 categories, including service credit, the higher your retirement allowance is going to be. If you have a type of time that is purchasable, you may want to think about purchasing service credit, and that will increase your service credit number in the formula when we go to calculate it. What you're seeing on the slide is a list of the types of time that are eligible for you to purchase. The idea here, the main idea, is that with all of these categories, most of these categories, is that there's a type of time that, circumstances being what they were, the law did not allow you to earn service credit for that time. But because it's a certain kind of circumstance, it's been decided that you can come back later and purchase that time to kind of make yourself whole. So and it's your choice. So the categories are, this first category is it's called ineligible time, because it's like time that you worked, but that wasn't eligible for you to earn service credit at the time. And there's a whole list here. That includes part-time work. Part-time is where you started out working for your employer, and you were not working for a temporary agency, and you were not working under contract, just plain old part-time. That is purchasable once you become an Acera member, once you achieve that full-time retirement eligible position. You can go back and purchase that part-time work. Similarly, the county's temporary assignment pool, which is what TAP stands for, all of that TAP time is purchasable. If you, before your Acera membership, did seasonal work, intermittent work, service as needed work, project work, per diem work, these are all purchasable types of time that you can go back and purchase. The next category is those 2 weeks between your date of hire and date of entry is purchasable. There's also unpaid medical leave, state disability insurance leave, and military leave. You can purchase those when you return from those leaves. The unpaid medical leave is for your medical condition that you're out on unpaid medical leave for. And when you return from that leave, you can buy up to 1 year of medical leave per instance. So if you're out on unpaid medical leave for a year, you come back, you go out on another year of unpaid medical leave, come back, you can buy both of those periods of unpaid medical leave. The state disability insurance leave, this is, I don't know if it's the same system, but people always ask about workers' comp. It's the same idea. If you're out on this leave, you're not earning service credit. That becomes purchasable when you return from the leave. Now, sometimes you're being paid partially by your employer and partially from the state disability insurance system or the workers' comp system. And in that case, you already earned some service credit by being paid for your employer. So then there's like this partial time that you could buy of the state disability insurance leave time or the workers' comp time to increase your service credit. The same thing with military leave during membership. You can buy that when you get back from the military leave. This is not prior military service. This is military leave that you go out on during your active membership with Acera. Okay, there's 2 categories here about redeposits. A redeposit of a prior membership is when you used to be an Acera member in the past. So you worked, you earned some service credit, you paid into the system, you quit or whatever, you left work, you left your job. And then when you did that, you took a refund, also known as a withdrawal of your contribution account, all the money that you had paid in. And in doing so, you canceled your Acera membership and lost all your service credit. but you got the money. Now you're back and you realize that you want that service credit back. Well, you can put the money back in, and it's called a redeposit, and you get all that service credit back from a prior membership. Redeposit of community property is where you earned retirement while you were married or you were in a state registered domestic partnership. And in the state of California, your retirement is part of the community property that is up for division when you divorce or dissolve your state registered domestic partnership. So often what happens is an ex-spouse or partner will take part of your account with them as part of the settlement agreement in the divorce or domestic partnership dissolution. So they'll take part of your service credit with them and a corresponding amount of contributions. Now, if they take a refund of their account, we will let you know. We'll send you a letter in the mail telling you that they did that, and then give you an opportunity to put an equivalent amount of money back into Acera to get that equivalent amount of service credit back, and then as a redeposit of community property. The last category, other California prior public service. This is where you used to work for another public agency in California. There's some examples here. You work for the state or another agency that uses CalPERS, which is the state's pension fund, another county, East Bay MUD, Port of Oakland, etc. And you're not eligible for their pension for whatever pension system they use. You could buy that time as Acera service credit. So to give you an example, you work for East Bay MUD for a year. You quit there, then you come work for one of Acera's 6 employers, and you become an Acera member. Well, maybe you want to you're not eligible for the pension over at East Bay MUD, maybe because you don't have enough time over there. So then what you would want to do is take a refund of that year of contributions that you paid in over there, and then we will allow you to buy a year's worth of Acera service credit because you worked in another California public agency. I saw a question up earlier about being able to purchase purchased vacation time. So that will go to answer that question, this slide. There are some times that are not eligible for you to make a service credit purchase, which is vacation purchase time. If you purchased additional vacation, I said that you did not earn service credit for it. You can also not purchase that time. But like I said earlier, it's not a big deal because it's not going to make that big of a difference to your retirement allowance. Any leave without pay that's not medical, you can't purchase that. Also, if you worked for one of our agencies under contract or for a temporary agency, that's not purchasable. When you work for the temporary agency, you were actually working for somebody else. And if you're trying to do this other California prior public service credit purchase, you cannot make the purchase until you take a refund from that other agency's pension system, and then you can make the purchase. And I see a question up here. What do you mean by purchasable? It's a very apt question. What do I mean by purchasable? What you are literally going to do, and that's actually the next slide, is you're going to give us money and we're going to give you service credit time. So you give us money and your service credit time goes up in your account, and we will use more service credit when we calculate your retirement. You can only buy time that falls into these categories. Sometimes people ask, can I just buy extra time? That has a term, that the term for that is airtime, and we don't have that. That's actually not legal anymore in the state. Let me see if there's a few other quick questions here about this. If I used vacation time to purchase long-term disability from my pay warrant, can I purchase service time? Is that long-term disability insurance that you're asking about? If it is, if you use your sold vacation time to go buy something, that's totally fine. but it doesn't, that doesn't give you, that's not one of the categories of purchasable time. So, so yeah, that doesn't give you the ability to purchase time. So sorry about that. What is the retroactive cutoff deadline for buying back tap time? You have to buy for all of the categories. The cutoff for buying back the time is you have to pay for it by the time you retire. So it's not a, the deadline isn't really coming up soon, but in a minute, you're going to see why you're going to want to make a service credit purchase as soon as you can. And I already, I did answer the question, can you purchase service credit if you sold vacation hours? No, you can't buy that back. Sorry about that. And then we were not county for our first 6 years before the county hired us as county. Can we purchase service credit for those years? The Public Housing Authority. That's going to be one of those complicated, I don't know the answer off the top of my head. So I'm just going to give you our contact info. That's going to be one of those more complex issues that you're going to want to talk directly to our staff about. So yeah, sorry, I don't know the answer to that. Did I earn service credit during COVID when I used the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Act while my child's school was remote? If not, am I able to earn service credit for the time I was out under the same leave? Okay, so if you're out on FMLA, FMLA is a federal law that allows you to be out of work, out sick from work for various medical issues and not and retain your job. Basically, they can't fire you. Basically, while you're out on that, what is categorized as FMLA leave, you will likely be using your paid leave balances, so your sick leave, possibly your vacation leave, floating holidays, or other leave balances. For any leave balances that you used, you already earned service credit for those hours. So you already earned service credit for it, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, then, if you were out on unpaid medical leave, maybe you ran out of leave time and you're out on unpaid medical leave, that could be purchasable. I'm not familiar with the exact category that you're talking about, and that could be something that you would want to contact our office about to verify whether that's purchasable. The other option is you can just fill out our purchase request form. We'll tell you whether it's purchasable or not. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Okay, this question I'm going to answer in just a second. Paternity leave is not currently considered unpaid medical leave, and I'm sorry that is the way that it's currently written. I think they're actually trying to either change that law or that code, but it's currently, not one of the categories of unpaid medical leave. So it's not a great situation. So sorry about that. Are you able to purchase back time during COVID when I took time to take care of my child? Also, in any case, the unpaid medical leave has to be for your own condition. So that would not be purchasable. So sorry about that. What if I worked for another union, CWA? Does the service credit apply? I worked for them for 9 years. Now, if you work for them for 9 years and they have a pension fund that you paid into, you might have a pension benefit over in their pension fund, and you will likely want to leave that over there and collect their pension whenever you become eligible for it. I'm not sure if that counts as, like, if you were interested in buying that time, I'm not sure if that counts as another prior public agency. That would be something that you would want to contact our office about. If I left the county and came back to work for the county after 3 years, can I purchase the time I was off? No, that would be considered airtime, and that is not one of the categories that you can purchase. Sorry about that. I'll be 73 when I retire, 5 years with Alameda County. Does it make sense to purchase time? I'm actually going to show you in just a minute how to figure out for yourself whether a service credit purchase is advantageous to you. And also baby bonding time for a mother under FMLA. That one you would want to contact our office about as well. I'm not sure whether that would be purchasable. So yeah. So let me move ahead with the rest of the service credit purchase slides, and I think I'll probably answer some of the questions that you have. So one question is, and this kind of feeds on that earlier question, what do you mean purchase? How do I do it? Well, you're going to give us cash, and how much is it going to cost? Well, it's going to cost whatever your employee contributions had been had you worked the time. So for example, let's say that you're trying to buy 6 months of unpaid medical leave time. So you come back from the unpaid medical leave, you want to buy that 6 months of time. If you had been working here for that 6 months, you would have been getting a paycheck and you would have been contributing to Acera out of your paycheck at a certain rate and based on how much you earn. And so whatever that amount of money would have been that you would have contributed, that is how much it's going to cost to make the service credit purchase for that amount of time. Now, if you make the purchase immediately, you will not have to pay any interest. If you wait, you may have to pay interest because if you had worked that time, let's stick with the 6 months of unpaid medical leave example. If you had worked that time and you had made the employee contributions into Acera, we would have taken that money and invested it. And that money would have earned interest. In most periods, it would earn interest. Some periods we don't earn interest occasionally if the market tanks. But then later, we come back and earn a lot more interest. So we have 2 interest periods per year, one ending in June, one ending in December. And every time the end of June and December and the end of December passes and you don't make a service credit purchase, that's one more interest period that you would have to pay toward the employee, toward the purchase cost, because your employee contributions would have made that amount of interest. So you have to pay the amount of interest that the money would have made had you worked and contributed that time. So the bottom line here is that the longer you wait to purchase service credit, the more expensive it gets. So the time to purchase service credit is as soon as you can. And I did see one question up on the board. How much interest does it cost? What are the interest amounts? Well, let me show you where to find that. Okay, let me go to the share, new share. Okay, here's our website. You can type in acera.org/interest, and it will take you right to this page. And there's this table. It's kind of a shortcut here, and it'll pop open. There's this table that shows you the historical interest from all the historical interest periods. So you see it tends to hover around 3.5% per interest period. And so you can see, I don't know, the past 20 or 30 years worth of interest that we've paid to our accounts. Okay, so how do you actually make the service credit purchase? You don't actually have to do any math. You don't have to figure out how much it's going to cost. We do all that for you. All you do is you go to acera.org/WMS. You can also go to acera.org/login, or just go to our website, acera.org, press the login button, get into your account. There is a purchase redeposit request form in there. You fill it out. And then what we do is we will do calculations. And we'll send you a letter telling you if the service credit that you're trying to buy is purchasable and how much it will cost. And then at that point, you can decide if you want to make the purchase and how much you want to purchase. So you don't have to make the purchase. It's not mandatory. Just by making the request, you actually need to wait until we tell you how much it's going to cost, and then you can make the decision. And going back to the list of times that you can purchase, For all of the times except for the redeposit, you could just buy a portion of the service if you wanted to. The redeposits are all or none. One more thing I'll say about the costs is that for all of the top bullet points, you're just paying the employee contribution. And so it'll be a little bit less than if you were paying if you were trying to buy other California prior public service, then you're going to pay the employer contribution and the employee contribution, and that can cost double or triple of all the other ones. So that one can get kind of expensive. And speaking of expensive, let me show you how you can make the payments and whether or not the expense is worth it. So your options for making service credit purchase payments are, you can write us a check on a post-tax basis if you have money laying around. If you have money in a pre-tax retirement account, for example, a 401k, 457b, IRA, 403b, etc., you can roll over money from there. We can also split up the purchase cost for you over time and take it directly out of your paycheck through payroll deductions, and it'll make it easy for you. That is also on a post-tax basis. Or we can do any combination if a different combination works for you. Okay, is buying service credit worth it? Let me show you how you can figure this out for yourself. The first thing that I'm giving you is, again, the link to log into your account on our website, or you can just go to acera.org and click the login button. When you get in there, you will see, I have a screenshot. Actually, I don't have a screenshot of the menu. You will see a menu, and one of the items in the menu is estimate a benefit. You're going to use this benefit estimator tool to make 2 estimates, okay? You're going to make one estimate without the service credit purchase and one estimate with the service credit purchase, and compare them and see what the difference is. In both estimates, you are going to think of a retirement scenario that's plausible for you. I'm going to retire in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is. And you pick out a date, and it's actually going to be a set of 2 dates, termination date and first day of retirement. If you just want to keep it easy and you think you're going to work straight into retirement, these are 2 consecutive dates. And I'll show you that on the screenshot in just a minute. But you're doing the same scenario for both estimates. So your retirement date is going to be the same in both places. And estimate number 1, you are not going to use the service credit override field. And this is a screenshot of the benefit estimator. So this is the separation date, projected retirement date. And yet once you hit calculate, it will project an amount of service credit for you that you will have earned in this scenario that you're doing, in this retirement scenario, based on your own pension data that we have in the database for you. You leave the override service credit field blank. You hit get estimate. That's estimate number 1. It will give you a certain dollar amount that it is estimating you will receive as your lifetime retirement allowance. Estimate number 2. You go back and do the estimator again. You use the same set of dates, same retirement date. You're going to do one difference this time. You're going to override the service credit by the amount of service credit you're trying to buy. To go back to the 6 months of unpaid medical leave example, if you're trying to buy 6 months worth of time, you're going to want to convert that to years. So 6 months is half a year, 0.5 years, okay? You take the 0.5 and you add it to the service credit that it's already telling you you're going to receive in this scenario. You put the new grand total in the override service credit field. You hit get estimate, okay? Estimate number 2 is going to be larger than estimate number 1 because you have more service credit in estimate number 2. Okay, then all you need to do is look at the difference between the 2 estimates. You just subtract estimate number 1 from estimate number 2, and it will tell you the retirement allowance increase that you get by making the service credit purchase. Then you take the purchase cost that we told you it's going to cost. So it's good to do this after you get the letter from us in the mail, after you fill out the purchase request. And you simply take that dollar amount. Let's say you get a letter in the mail. You fill out the service credit purchase request. We tell you it's going to cost you $1,200 to make the service credit purchase that you want to make. When you do your 2 estimates, you see that making the service credit purchase increases your retirement allowance by $100 per month. Okay. So you take that purchase cost, the $1,200, divide it by the $100 of the increase, and that tells you how many months it takes to get your money back in retirement. Because when you finally go to retire, if you've made the service credit purchase, your retirement allowance is going to be higher. It's going to be more like estimate 2. And through those higher payments, you're going to get all the money back that you put down while you were still working to make the service credit purchase. You'll get it back over a series of months of higher payments. And so you decide whether the number of months it takes to get the money back is worth it to make the service credit purchase. If it's going to take 12 months in retirement to get your money back, that's a fantastic deal. That is not that much time. And then you're going to get that higher retirement allowance for the rest of your life. Now, if you're getting into the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year category that it's going to take to get the money back, then you got to weigh whether it's worth it for you. So that's how you determine that. Before I move on, let me see if there's any final service credit questions up on the board. Okay, one question. I worked at Health Plan of San Joaquin, which is a quasi-governmental agency. Does the time I worked there count towards service credit with Alameda County? It's possible if you purchase that as the other prior public service credit time. So my suggestion would be to go ahead and log into your account on our website, fill out the service credit purchase request form, say who the employer was and when you worked there, and we'll figure it out and tell you whether that time is purchasable and how much it will cost. Okay, there's a salary question. I'll get to that in a minute. At what rate do you calculate the service credit purchase? It's based on your employee contributions. So the best way to figure it out is to go back and look at a pay stub around the time that you're trying to buy and see what dollar amount you were making each pay period. And then you just multiply that by kind of the same amount of time as the amount of pay periods that you're trying to buy. That's the easiest way to figure it out. Is it possible to roll over to Acera so that I would not have my retirement from prior entity taxed? You can roll over if you're trying to make a service credit purchase. This is the only time that you can roll over money to Acera as one of your service credit payment options. But we're not a defined contribution system. We don't run any of these types of retirement accounts. The county and your employer, every one of the public employers runs a 457B account. You would want to talk to the next presenter who's going to come on at 11:15 about that question, and you can roll over that money into a 457B account. Let me see. I only have 9 months with CalPERS and have reciprocity for the time. Can I buy those service credit time and remove the reciprocity? You probably can, but it's probably not going to be cost effective for you. You're already getting 9 months. You're already going to get a retirement benefit based on that 9 months with CalPERS. If you were to, and you've already established reciprocity, which means that you would have to break reciprocity, and sometimes that can come with some undesirable side effects. Sometimes I don't even think they'll let you do that. They might let you do that. My suggestion is you're already going to get a benefit from CalPERS based on that 9 months, and you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to make a service credit purchase. So I would probably just leave it there, and then and just continue with the reciprocity. I think that's the most advantageous thing. Can you purchase tap time back a little at a time? Yep. So let's say you have a year of tap time. You submit the purchase request. We say it's going to cost $4,000. And you don't have $4,000 laying around, and you don't want to split it up over payroll deductions. So you can write us a check for $1,000 and buy a quarter of the time. And then you can come back later, submit another purchase request, buy more of the time. But just remember that the longer you wait, the more expensive it gets to purchase the time because of the interest. The question is, do I need to know the exact dates, or can a Sarah run the report for calculating the time, reported the employer? I don't think you need to know the exact dates, but you should try to get close on the service credit purchase request. Okay, so I'm going to leave the rest of the questions up there, and I will get to all of those shortly. Okay, next topic, and then we'll take a break. Next topic is the highest average monthly salary. We've already talked about the age factor percentage. We talked about the years of service credit. Let me tell you how we calculate the highest average monthly salary. So when you go to retire, our pension software has all your payroll records on file. And what it's going to do is find your period of consecutive highest pay from any time in your career. This, in pension lingo, is known as your final compensation period. If you're in tiers 1 and 3, your final compensation period will consist of your highest consecutive 26 biweekly or 12 monthly pay periods. If you're in tiers 2 and 4, which I bet the majority of you are, your final compensation period will be your highest consecutive 78 biweekly or 36 monthly pay periods. Essentially, for tiers 1 and 3, it's your highest year of pay. For tiers 2 and 4, it's your highest 3 years of pay. Our goal for this calculation, and we need for the formula to find your highest average monthly salary over that time, over that 1 year or 3 years. So we just take an average, divide it by the number of months in that period. We look at your whole pay during that time. We take an average, and that's your highest average monthly salary, your whole pay divided by 12 months or 36 months. Now, what types of pay will actually be included? Your base pay, of course, is going to be included. And for all of these types of types of pay I'm going to show you, this is all gross pay before any deductions are taken out. So your base pay, of course, will be included in the calculation. Now, some of you may have other pay codes. These are sometimes known as footnotes. Some of these may be included, some of them may not be. There's like 1,000 different pay codes. I can't tell you off the top of my head whether your pay code is in or out of the equation, but you can find that on our website. If you go to acera.org/paycodes, you'll find a PDF there for your employer with all the pay codes listed, and it'll say yes or no, whether it's included in the highest average salary calculation or not. The one pay code that I know never counts is overtime. Now, for those of you who are in tier 1 or 2 who are watching this, probably there are no tier 1 members, so it's probably just tier 2 people. If you sell vacation during this final compensation period, or your final compensation period is at the end of your career because you make the highest rate of pay at the end of your career, and you cash out vacation. So you still have vacation left on the books, and they cash you out for it at that time. Some of that pay can be included in your salary, and that will boost your salary and boost your retirement allowance. Now, I do not take a deep dive into that concept in this seminar. I'd talk about that for maybe 20 or 30 minutes in our pre-retirement webinar. You can sign up for that. We're doing a live one tomorrow, but we have a ton of pre-retirement webinar recordings out on our website on the seminars page. So you can just go watch that. And if you want to know about that topic, just fast forward through the YouTube video until you get to this slide. It'll look just the same. And then I'll launch into that topic in the pre-retirement webinar. But yes, if you're in tier 2, those vacation sales and cash outs can boost your salary. So I think I answered that question. And somebody was asking specifically about that. So the answer is yes. These could bump your salary if you're in tier 2, not tier 3 or 4. Okay. And then there's one more follow-up about that reciprocity with CalPERS and then the CalPERS reciprocity scenario. Yes, you have reciprocity with CalPERS when you go to retire. You'll get a check from Acera and a check from CalPERS. So, yep, you are correct. And there's a question, what's the difference between a vacation sellback and vacation cashing out? It's just the time that you do it. Vacation sellback, vacation sales is you're doing it while you're still employed. Vacation cash out comes at the end of your career. When you still have vacation left on the books, they'll cash you out for it at that time. And there's various rules and limitations, caveats about that. So if you are interested in that topic, I recommend checking out our pre-retirement webinar video. Now, there is a question up on the board about this slide, the limits to benefit payments slide. So for Tier 4 members, one additional salary topic I need to tell you about is this salary cap on how much of your salary we are allowed to include in the highest average salary calculation. There's a cap written into the law. For general members, the cap for 2023 is $146,000 and change. For safety members, the cap for 2023 is $175,000 and change. So we are not allowed to include any more than this amount of annual salary for you as salary when we're calculating your pension. So that's the bad news. There's a couple of points of good news, which is that whenever you hit that cap, if you do have a high salary and you hit one of these caps during the year, after that, for the rest of the year, we don't take retirement contributions out of your paycheck. And that leaves you more money to save in your 457B account or in your personal investments. The other piece that is slightly positive about this is that these dollar amounts go up every year. It's based on the Social Security cap number that the federal government issues. And so these numbers will go up every year. So by the time you go to retire, these numbers will probably be higher. And yes, so it is the Social Security cap. Caps only apply to Tier 4. That's part of the Pension Reform Act that the state passed in 2012 that created Tier 4 as of January 1st, 2013. If there's more information about that at acerra.org/limits, if you are in another tier and you have a really high salary, there could be some other limits that you might hit. So you may want to check out that information on our website. There's a question about at the end of your career, taking a position that pays less. So let's say you're in Tier 2, so you have a 3-year final compensation period, and you're earning a higher rate. But then let's say that at the end of your career, you take a lower position and you earn less money. Well, our software will go back to that earlier period where you were making more money, because we're finding the highest possible consecutive pay periods from any time in your career. And that's what we'll use to calculate your salary for calculating your retirement. And then somebody else had asked about the salary, so we answered that. You are welcome. It looks like there's a follow-up here about a percentage of sick leave being used to cover the balance. And I don't remember what the initial question was, so I apologize for that. Maybe you could clarify. Okay, what you're seeing here on this slide is the entire retirement allowance calculation put together with numbers. This example is a Tier 4 member. They're retiring at age 65 after they've earned 25 years of service credit. Based on them being in Tier 4 and based on them retiring at age 65, when you go look at the age factor percentage chart, those two numbers will meet at 2.30%. So they're going to get 2.30% of their highest salary for each one of the 25 years of service that they earned, that they worked and earned. So we are just multiplying these three numbers together, and that is giving us the retirement allowance. But I showed you earlier that there's another interim multiplication you can do to look at, kind of get another view of how prepared you are for retirement, which is if you take the age factor percentage and multiply it by the years of service, this will be the percent of your salary that you're going to get. So 3,450 is 57.5% of 6,000. That means that, and there's this term here, salary replacement. That means that this tier 4 member is replacing 57.5% of their working salary, which was $6,000. I also mentioned earlier that one target financial planners will tell you is you're targeting 70 to 80% income replacement in retirement. Getting to 57.5% income replacement from your Acera pension alone is doing really well, because Social Security will fill in a lot of that additional income replacement to get you to the 70 to 80%. If it doesn't, if there's a little bit of a gap, you can save additional money. And I'll show you how. That's what we're going to talk about in the second half of the presentation. I'll show you how to calculate how much more to save now to get pointed in that 70 to 80% trajectory. Okay, I see, before I move into the next section, I do see a question up on the board that was curious to me about the Social Security caps and whether the numbers were correct. So I went on our website and I checked that out, and those numbers are correct. If those limits are different from the Social Security cap, I'm not sure why that is, but the numbers out on our website, if you go to acera.org/limits, are what they were on the slide. And you can see what the 2022 caps were as well. So yeah, I'm not sure what the difference is there. There's a question. I understand you can sell back your sick leave at the time of retirement, 5 or 7 days of sick leave for 1 day of vacation. Will this be added to my salary calculation? I have not heard that you can do that. I've never heard that. That would be something that you would probably want to check with your sell back sick leave for 1 day of vacation. You would want to check with your employer about whether you can sell sick leave at the end of retirement for vacation. There's a lot of rumors about what you can do at Acera, and sometimes it's a game of telephone. This could be a slightly altered version of our sick leave conversion, which is you will get service credit for half of your sick leave if you go straight into retirement on up to a cap. And it could be, as you know, sometimes it's like 125 days of sick leave. You could get half of that as service credit. So that could be what that's about. But yeah, I would ask your employer whether you can convert sick leave to vacation time. If you can, then you could cash it out and presumably get salary credit for it up to our limits. But I would definitely, if you're trying to strategize about having vacation boost your retirement, I would definitely go check out that section of our pre-retirement webinar where I go into detail about that. There's a question, what is the different benefit between stop payment at death and continuance after death? The interim payment between two options. Maybe it sounds like you might be referring to, I do talk about death benefits coming up. So let me wait and address that at the death benefit section, and that might answer your question. I think that's coming up pretty soon. Okay, what I'm going to show you now is 2 ways to get a pension estimate, because we've been talking a lot about the retirement allowance in general. You probably want to learn specifically what your pension estimate might be. The first way I'm going to show you is how to get a ballpark idea of how much salary you're replacing with your pension. And so to do that, you're going to need to look at these charts that we have for you out on our website. So you go to acera.org/planning. You can type that in, or I'll show you how to navigate there. So from our homepage, or really from any page on our website, you can, as soon as it pops up, go under members, go down to the third selection there, planning your future retirement income, click there. And then the first step in planning your future retirement income is getting an ACERA estimate, and it gives you 4 different ways to do that. We are going to open the accordion for option 1. There's some buttons here, and you're going to click on your tier, and it's going to open a PDF for you that has the chart in it, salary replacement percentages chart. And then you're going to think to yourself of a plausible retirement scenario for you. So let's say that I'm 30 and I'm going to work for 25 years and retire at age 55. So 40, 55, that's 25 years. Just for an example. So what I'm going to do is find out where those two numbers intersect, my age at retirement and how much service credit I will have earned. So let's say I've already earned 5 years of service credit, and I'm going to work for another 25 years. So let's say that I have 30 years of service credit at retirement when I retire at age 55. So I'm going to come down here to 30. I'm going to go over to the age 55 column, and I see that those two numbers intersect at 39%. So that means that my retirement allowance is going to be 39% of my working salary while I was working, if I retire in this scenario, where I retire as a Tier 4 general member with 30 years of service credit age 55. Now, one feature of this chart is it will allow you to see what your income replacement, how your income replacement will change by working an additional year or working a year less. And you just simply go diagonally down the chart. Like, for example, if I want to see the effect of working one more year, I will be a year older in that scenario. So I'll be age 56, and I will have another year of service credit, 31 years of service credit. So those intersect at 43.4%. If I go diagonally another year down, I want to see what happens if I work another year, 48%. Well, what happens if I work another year, 52.8%. So between retiring at 55 and 58, I went from having a 39% income replacement to 52.8% income replacement in that scenario. So that's, this just kind of gives you a ballpark idea of the salary replacement that you can expect in retirement, retiring under this scenario. And if you want to kind of do a ballpark math in your head, you can just take your current monthly salary, and multiply it by that percentage. And, that will kind of give you a very rough idea of what the dollar amount you can expect in retirement. Okay, let me show you the precision way to do it. That's the ballpark way. Let me show you the precision way. So going back to the presentation, I have screenshots about this. You go to our website, you click on the login button. What you're seeing here is the first page of our member portal known as Web Member Services. If you've already logged in here before, it's just your email address and password. If you've never logged in before, you just go to that first page. It'll help you create an account. And once you get in here, you'll see that your pension data is waiting for you. Now you can see on the account summary screen, it will show you a lot of information about you, like your tier, your employer, whether you have reciprocity or not, your employment date, your date of entry into ACERA, how much service credit you've earned, how much contributions you've paid in, so the balance of your contribution account. What you're going to do is click on Estimate a Benefit. It's going to take you to this benefit estimator tool. And I'll zoom in here so you can see it a little bit larger without the menu. You are going to think of a plausible retirement scenario that you just want to try to get estimate and get an estimate for. Because this could be far in the future. Like in this one, I'm doing what happens if I retire in 2030. Okay. And you just pick a couple of dates. And if you don't know whether you're going to work until retirement or not, you could do a scenario while you're working straight into retirement. You could do another scenario where you quit and then defer your retirement date to a later date. If you're working straight into retirement, you would have 2 consecutive dates here. If you're going to quit and then defer your retirement to a later date, you would have, there would be a gap between the dates, but you can do that scenario if you want. Separation date is your last day of work, like your last day working for your employer, and your projected retirement date is your first day of retirement with the SARA, where you start collecting your retirement allowance. So you hit calculate, and it will project an amount of service credit for you that fits this this timeline based on how much service credit you've already earned and what it projects into the future for you. It will also do a salary projection for you. So all you need to do is hit get estimate. You can put in beneficiary information here if you want to. You hit get estimate, and what you will see is this retirement benefit estimate. This is a PDF, and what it is doing here is show, and there's actually more pages. I think there's 4 pages to this, but this is just the first page that you're seeing. And it will give you an estimate of the retirement allowance you can expect in the scenario that you just ran the estimate for the different retirement options that we offer. There's 5, but because you're either a new employee or you're in your mid-career, you don't really want to narrow in on one of these options as of yet. This is something that you do right before retirement. Because your life scenario is probably going to be different by the time you get to retirement. That might inform which option you choose. For right now, just look at the unmodified option. And I'll just zoom in here so you can see this a little bit better, the 5 different options. Just look at the unmodified option for right now and just go by this number. So this is the precision estimate that the estimator is giving you for this retirement scenario that you have just put in numbers for. So that's how that works. Okay, so let me talk about retirement eligibility, and let me help you understand retirement eligibility. You will become eligible to retire with some combination of your years of service credit and age. So for tiers 1, 2, and 3, there's 3 different options. There's 3 different combinations that get you to retirement eligibility. And I'll show you tier 4 in just a minute. Option number 1, if you're in tiers 1, 2, or 3, is you're at least age 50 and you have at least 5 years of service credit and you have at least 10 years of membership. Now, the 10 years of membership means that at least 10 years has passed since you entered a SARA. Since you're in tier 2 or tier 3 or tier 1, you entered a SARA at least 10 years ago now, because both of those, all of those tiers ended more than 10 years ago. So you can kind of just think of it as having 10 years of service credit and being over age 50, and you can retire. Or option number 2 is you can have at least 30 years of service credit as a general member and 20 years of service credit as a safety member, and you can retire at any age, even if it's younger than age 50. Or option number 3, if you have less than the 5 years of service credit that you needed to retire under option 1, you could retire at age 70 with any amount of service credit. Okay, so tier 4, you have 2 different combinations that get you to retirement eligibility. Option number 1 is that you are at least age 52 as a general member, or as a safety member, you're at least age 50, and you have at least 5 years of service credit. You can retire. So you can see that it doesn't take a whole ton of service credit to draw a lifetime pension from a SARA. Now, 5 years of service credit, it's not going to be a huge pension. It will probably be pretty modest, but it will probably pay a bunch of your bills in retirement. So it will really help you out in retirement. So it's a really powerful amount of money that you can count on for the rest of your life. So it's not something, it's not something to sniff at, that just having a 5 years worth of service credit retirement. If that's how that, I don't know if I'm getting that expression right. It's a tangible, decent amount of money is what I'm trying to get across. Okay, moving on. Your second combination that will get you to eligibility for retirement as a tier 4 member is that you are at least age 70 and you can retire with any amount of service credit, even if it's less than 5 years. So I think there was somebody earlier that was going to retire over age 70 with about 5 years. So you don't actually, if you're over age 70, you don't actually have to hit the 5-year mark to retire for tier 4. So those are the combinations that get you to retirement eligibility. You can retire as soon as you're eligible, to retire, or you can keep working and earning more credit toward retirement. Okay, let me touch briefly on the other benefits that Acera offers. I'll talk very quickly about the healthcare benefits. Disability retirement, I won't really go into here. We have a whole disability page that talks about it, but basically I just want to tell you about that the concept exists. If any time in your career you become permanently disabled and you can't perform your job duties anymore, you can apply for disability retirement and retire early with a disability retirement. So that's a whole topic that you can explore on the web on your own. And I'll tell you about death benefits in just a minute too. Regarding the healthcare benefits, these are based on a reserve fund that Acera runs. Our board of retirement administers it, and what their job is to pay out benefits from this reserve fund, and also to ensure the fund stays sustainable. Now, these are not guaranteed benefits. These are extra benefits that are paid on top of your pension. This doesn't come out of your pension amount. Your pension amount is your pension amount. These are extra benefits that are paid on top of it if you're eligible. The board, because they want to keep the fund sustainable, they're the ones that set the eligibility requirements, and they determine what the benefit levels are that are paid out of this fund. Currently, the fund is considered very sustainable. There's over $1 billion in there, and it's more sustainable than it's ever been. Now you can see that there's 5 benefits here that are paid out of this fund. 4 of them require you to have at least 10 years of Acera service credit to start to qualify for them. Okay. The only one that you don't need Acera service credit for is the supplemental cost of living adjustment, which is an extra cost of living adjustment paid on top of the vested cost of living adjustment that prevents your buying power from eroding too far in retirement. So that's a really good benefit, and everyone qualifies for that once they hit that. Once their buying power erodes at least 15% in retirement, it keeps you at 85% of your original buying power. Now, the other 4, the healthcare subsidies, you have to have at least 10 years of Acera service credit to qualify. And notice it says Acera service credit. Reciprocal service credit does not count. Now, if you purchase service credit as Acera service credit, that does count toward this, okay? Because that's considered Acera service credit. There's dental is fully paid for, your premium. Vision is fully paid for, your premium. Medicare, this is the cost of, this subsidizes the cost of you being enrolled in Medicare. And then the medical, once you become Medicare eligible, the medical subsidy, MMA stands for monthly medical allowance. It's the name of our medical subsidy. And there's 3 levels of it. And you get to the levels based on having at least 10 years of Acera service credit, 15 or 20. And if you have at least 15 or 20, the amount that you get goes up. I'm not going to go into the full details of this because this is more of a discussion that we do in our pre-retirement webinar. So if you want to see that full discussion, you can go to that webinar and fast forward to this slide here. But the main thing that I want to drive home here is that regarding career planning, let's say that you've already worked here 9.5 years and you're thinking about quitting. Well, maybe you don't want to do that because of these extra subsidies that you would get if you stuck it out until you hit the 10-year mark. This monthly medical allowance, the 10-year monthly medical allowance, the dental subsidy, vision subsidy, and Medicare subsidy is going to represent a lot of extra money in retirement. So you may want to even think about it as there's an extra pension milestone on here, which is the healthcare subsidies, the 10-year mark, and you may want to work on getting past that to get that extra money. Okay, so let's see here. Reciprocal service credit does not help with any of those benefits. It's Acera service credit only. The medical, dental, vision subsidies don't cover your spouses, but you can enroll them in our plans. The subsidies just cover the costs for you. And the most recent supplemental COLA, it's kind of a complicated number. I recommend going to acera.org/suppcola. And to get more information on that. Okay, let me tell you about death benefits and designating your beneficiaries. And I'm kind of hitting the gas pedal here because we're coming up on when we're going to transition over to the deferred compensation information. And I want to make sure I get through the career planning stuff and the financial planning stuff before we transition. Okay, so I might go through some of this a little quicker. You're a beneficiary is someone who gets benefits. Your ACERA beneficiary is someone you designate to get your ACERA death benefits after you pass away. Now, what I'm going to show you here is 3 slides about death benefits that your beneficiaries would receive should you pass away before retirement. The conversation about death benefits after retirement, that is in our pre-retirement webinar, but you can read about them if you go to our death benefits page, which is acera.org/death. But because you're either new employees or in your mid-career, I want to make sure that you know about your death benefits that your beneficiaries would receive should you die before your retirement. Okay, so if you're not yet vested and you die before retirement, you're still actively working for one of your for your employer. And I'm not saying that you die at work. I'm just saying that you're in active status with your employer and you're not vested. What your beneficiary would receive is a return of the balance of your contribution account, which is all of your contributions you paid in plus the interest that we have posted to your account. They would also receive 1 month of your salary for each year of service that you have already completed. So for example, if you've already worked 3 years, they would get 3 months of your salary. Now, if you're vested, your beneficiaries get a choice. Option number 1 that I just explained is still on the table. That's one of their options. But they also would have, if they are a qualified beneficiary, options 2 and 3. Qualified beneficiaries are your spouse, state registered domestic partner, Alameda County domestic partner, or minor children, only minor children. And they would get, if they choose option 2, a monthly survivor's allowance. Now, if it's spouse or domestic partner, they would get a lifetime allowance. If it's a minor child, the monthly survivor's allowance would cut off at age 18, unless they maintained enrollment in an accredited school, at which point it would continue to age 22, could continue to age 22, at which point it would cut off. Option number 3 is a hybrid of options 1 and 2. So they would get the 1 month of salary for each year of service and a reduced monthly survivor's allowance. There's a question, what happens to your employee contributions if you leave the county before 10 years or are terminated? Good question. I'll answer that in just a minute when we talk about career planning. So the 3rd slide on death benefits before retirement is for deferred members. So let me tell you what a deferred member is. An active member is somebody who is actively working for their employer. You're actively paying into ACERA and you're actively earning service credit. A retired member is somebody who has retired. Now, a deferred member is an in-between category. You're no longer active with your employer because you quit or you left work for some reason. So you're not working there anymore, but you have not retired yet. You've deferred your retirement to a later date. And so we call you a deferred member. If you die as a deferred member, the benefits that your beneficiaries would receive is a return of the balance of your contribution account. There's more info at acera.org/death. One thing that I do want to emphasize is keeping your beneficiary designations current. As active members, you can change your beneficiary designations at any time. Even if you're a deferred member, you can change your beneficiary designations at any time. You just got to fill out the form on our forms page. Check your beneficiaries. Log into your account on our website at acera.org. Press the login button. Go to the nominated beneficiary page. See who we currently have as your nominated beneficiary. If you see your spouse on here from 3 spouses ago, I think you're probably going to want to go ahead and redesignate your beneficiary. And you can even just click on the link up here and it will take you to the beneficiary designation form and you can redesignate your beneficiary. And as soon as you turn the form into us, your beneficiary is designated as of that day. Okay. Now there is a question about the death benefits to grown children. If you die before you retire, grown children are not qualified beneficiaries for a survivor's allowance, so they would just get option 1, a return of the contributions and interest and the salary. So that's just the way the law is written. Okay. Let me tell you about career planning options. When I say career planning options, what I'm talking about is the fact that you're not going to work at your employer for the rest of eternity. You're going to stop working for your employer at some point in the future. And what are your options when you do that regarding your Acera membership? Well, I'm going to show you two options and then three sub options of the second one. The first option that I'm going to show you is working straight into retirement and simply retiring. If you are eligible to retire, when you stop working for your employer, you can just go ahead and retire and start drawing your lifetime monthly pension benefit. You will earn service credit right up to the time of your retirement. We will convert your sick leave on a 2-to-1 basis to service credit, up to a cap. And you can even go work somewhere else if you want, and we don't care. We're going to consider you a Acera retiree and pay you your pension benefit every month for the rest of your life. And you can go work wherever you want. That's option number one, is retire. Now, option number two is if you're terminating before retirement. So this means what I'm saying here is that you're not going to retire immediately. You're going to stop working and you decide, I'm not going to retire immediately. Or maybe you're not eligible to retire immediately. Okay, so in this case, your termination date on the pension milestone chart will have a gap between when you terminate and when you retire, if you are going to retire. You have options to not retire, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so if you stop working and don't retire immediately, I'm going to show you three sub options of that, options A, B, and C. Option A is you can become a deferred member with Acera. That means you are leaving your contributions on deposit with Acera. Another way to say that is you're not taking a refund or withdrawal of your contribution account from Acera. So your contributions are staying with Acera, and because you're becoming a deferred member, the word member is in there, you're still an Acera member. You maintain your Acera membership. You're just in deferred status. As a deferred member, interest continues to accumulate. Every time the fund earns interest, we will post interest to your contribution account. And in fact, we never post negative interest. People ask me what I mean by that. That means that if in a 6-month interest period, Acera loses money in the short term during that, like the investments, like the return is -3% or something. We don't do that to your account. Your account only grows, it never shrinks. What I'm saying is there's no risk to leaving your money in your contribution account with Acera. And if you go back to that interest page, acera.org/interest, and see the kind of interest that we earn, I very much doubt that you can take your money out, you can withdraw your money and put it somewhere else that is zero risk, where you can earn the type of interest that we earn. You can also retire later if out of deferred status. So you stop working, you defer your, you become a deferred member, and then later, maybe you become eligible to retire, or maybe you just decide to retire later. You can retire later out of deferred status. So you can do that. That is one option. Or later, you could come back to work and start earning more credit toward retirement. So you could pick up and become an active member again if you came back to work for one of our employers. You also retain the right to be refunded at any time. So let's say that you stop working and you can't decide whether you want to withdraw your money from Acera or not. Well, you don't have to decide immediately. You can take a refund later. And the refund is going to be option C. That's coming up. So I'll show you the details of that. And so this kind of goes to answer that question up on the board. What happens to your employee contributions if you leave the county before 10 years or are terminated? I mean, really, it doesn't matter how many, it doesn't even matter how many years you've already worked for your employer. However many it is, however, the balance of your contribution account, if you want to leave it with Acera, that's what it's going to be. And we're just going to keep posting interest to it until your retirement or until you decide to make a withdrawal. And hopefully to the person who is asking about the death, the lump sum payment at death and the continuance payment options, hopefully I answered that question. The PowerPoint slide deck, I actually updated it right before this presentation started. I will upload the slide deck. I'll refresh the one that's up on the website, but I'll show you where to get to it. Give me like 10, 15 minutes after the presentation ends. And if you go to retirement planning seminars under news and events, there's a link in there to get the PDF of the presentation. Upon leaving the county, is there anything you need to do to become a deferred ACERA member? Well, we ask that you fill out our, I think it's called the termination form. No, it's not called maybe the termination deferred form. There's a form that you fill out. It's on our forms page. And we want you to fill that out. But if you don't fill it out, if you forget to, you just automatically become a deferred member. Let's see, what is that form called? Termination election of membership request form. And so there's a deferred option on there. Okay, so I need to keep there's a question up on the board about deferring. I will type that in, the answer to that in once the deferred compensation presentation starts, because I need to keep moving forward. So sorry about that. Okay, so option B is establishing reciprocity. So once you leave work with your employer, you can establish reciprocity. Establishing reciprocity is where you go work for another public California employer who has a different pension system. And you can link the two systems together. Many of California cities, I think maybe all of California's counties, they either have their own pension system or they use the state system. The state system is called CalPERS. State jobs or any agency that uses CalPERS, we have reciprocity with, and you can find more information and a full list at acera.org/reciprocity. And the benefits of linking the two systems together are that the service credit that you earn under all of the systems combined you use for vesting and retirement eligibility. So you work here for 3 years, you go over to Contra Costa County, work 2 years and link the systems together when you left. Combined, you have 5 years, and that gets you over the retirement eligibility requirement for the 5 years. Additionally, another benefit is that the highest salary that you earn under any of the reciprocal systems you link together, and you could link together more than 2, you could link together 3, 4, 5, however many you want. If you keep getting new jobs, the highest salary that you earn under any of those systems linked together, all of them will use that highest salary when they do their calculation, because we're all going to do separate calculations and each separately send you a check, but we're all going to use the highest salary that you earn under any of those systems. And if you're in tiers 1, 2, or 3, establishing reciprocity keeps your contribution rate lower. In tier 4, it doesn't really have an effect on your contribution rate because everyone in tier 4 pays the same rate. To establish reciprocity, you just got to do 4 things. One is you leave your contributions on deposit with every system you're linking together, which means you're maintaining your membership in every system, becoming a deferred member in all of the previous systems. Number 2, you can have no more than a 6-month gap between when you end the first job and enter the second job. Number 3, you can have no more than 12 weeks of overlapping service. This is pretty easy to do. It's pretty easy. When I say it's pretty easy to do, it's pretty easy to avoid having more than 12 weeks of overlapping service. Just simply quit the first job before you start the second job. Overlapping service would be if you're on vacation leave on the first job and then you start the second job. You wouldn't want to have more than 12 weeks of that. The 4th is that you can retire from all of the system. You have to retire from all the systems on the same day. And that's how you establish reciprocity. And the main thing is deferring, becoming a deferred member by leaving your contributions on deposit and having no more than a 6-month gap. And then you can link the systems together. There's a question, does the highest salary information hold true even if your job title classification changes. Absolutely. So the highest average salary from any system, all the systems are going to use. Option C, when you stop working for your employer and terminate your employment, is to take a refund of your employee contributions and interest. Now, I already kind of gave you a pitch for not doing this because your money is secure at Acera. So you just leave it at if you just leave it at Acera, you're going to continue to earn a lot of interest over long periods of time. In the short term, there's of course market ups and downs. You're going to continue to earn a lot of interest over long periods of time, and there's no risk. But you can take a refund if you want. When you take a refund of your Acera contribution account, you're basically canceling your Acera membership. You're saying, I no longer want to be an Acera member. Please refund the balance of my contribution account, and we will do that for you because you have the right to that. If you do that, and you are not rolling over the money into another pre-tax account and you're taking a lump sum payment, you're just looking for cash, you may lose a lot of money to taxes and penalties. Unless you roll over the money into another pre-tax account, and then you won't incur the taxes and penalties at that point. Refunds can take some time. They could take over 60 days, so it's not an instantaneous thing. So just expect that. And you're basically waiving all your rights to Acera benefits. So if you are eligible to retire when you stop working, there's no scenario I can think of that taking a refund makes financial sense. Because like I said at the beginning of the presentation, we're already going to give you back all of your contributions and interest in the first 3 to 5 years of retirement payments. And then everything after that is like an amazing bonus for you. So you're already going to get all your money back plus tons more the longer and longer you live after retirement. So if you're already ready to retire, or you're eligible to retire, or you will become eligible to retire, after you meet the age requirement pretty quickly after you stop working, taking a withdrawal, a refund, does not make a lot of financial sense. Okay. Next topic, making a retirement planning picture. I'm going to kind of go through this a little quickly because I'm running a little behind because you all are super curious and asking amazing, pertinent questions that I just want to answer all of them. So I'm going to kind of try to go through this efficiently. Gene Hilliard, who is the actual financial guru, the actual financial expert here with the county, is going to tell you a lot more about financial planning than I am able to impart. So I'm just going to give you a basic rundown of financial planning, and then he's really going to go into the details of this. So you're seeing this slide again. We've already seen this slide. Your target is 70 to 80% income replacement in retirement through various forms of retirement income, including your Acera pension. Perhaps you may have another pension because you have reciprocity, or another pension from something else. You can throw that in the equation, Social Security, and then anything beyond that is savings and investments. So the question you're probably going to want to answer for yourself is the combination of the pension and Social Security enough? Is the combination of the pension and Social Security enough to get you pointed in the 70 to 80% trajectory? Or will you have to save additional money? And if so, how much? I will help you figure that out. And it's actually not that complicated. Step 1, get your Acera estimate like I showed you how to do. Okay. And you're also going to get a Social Security estimate. So the Acera estimate, you go out to our website, log in, use the benefit estimator, generate a retirement benefit estimate, look at the retirement benefit estimate, and maybe get out a scratch piece of paper and write it down. Also take note of what age you're doing in this scenario, because you're making projections into the future and you're going to want to see if this scenario makes sense for you. For this example that I'm giving you, I want to see what happens. Will I be able to hit the 70 to 80% mark if I'm retiring at age 62? And if I am trying to hit that mark, how much additional will I need to save? Excuse me. Okay, so you got your Acera estimate. Go out to Social Security's website, get an estimate from their tool. it's going to be kind of similar to Acera in the fact that you log in there and you're going to see your Social Security data in there. They'll give you an estimate that looks like something like this, where they'll give you an estimate for how much they'll pay you if you start collecting Social Security at various ages. I'm going to stick with the 62 example. So I'm going to write this on my scratch paper. I'm going to see that I'm getting about $2,200 from Acera at age 62 and $1,700 from Social Security if I take that early payment from Social Security at age 62. Okay, now you can plug those dollar amounts into that addition equation that I showed you, but that's the hard way to do it. Use technology. Use a retirement calculator. There are a bunch of retirement calculators out on the web. There's a really powerful one inside. If you sign up for a 457B account, which is through Prudential, which is now known as Empower, there's a really powerful one in there that will probably help you do exactly what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the Vanguard calculator, but the Prudential one is probably similar, if not more powerful. And what it's going to show you is if you have a gap between, if you need to save additional beyond what the pension and the Social Security will pay you, and if so, how much? That's basically the bottom line. How much you might want to start saving now. Instead of showing you screenshots, I'm going to go back to the web and do it live. Like Bill O'Reilly. I'll do it live. And so go, if you've never seen that video, go check that out on YouTube. It's pretty hilarious. So what I'm going to do is so you can click on members, but you don't have to. Go to acera.org, go in our menu, go to members, go to the third option, planning your future retirement income. Scroll down. There's links to these retirement calculators. Scroll. Sorry, the page is still loading. Okay, scroll all the way down to step 4. Click on the link to the Vanguard calculator. This is what I'm doing. If you have a 457B account, you can just skip these calculators, go straight to the Prudential retirement calculator. But I actually recommend trying a few of these out because they'll give you a few different numbers, and you can kind of take an average, or you can, just kind of better inform yourself on how much additionally you want to save. Gene Hilliard is going to tell you about how you can make a personal appointment with him, and he will tell you exactly how much additional to save in your 457B account. So if you don't even want to worry about this, you don't have to, but I'll just show you how to do this if you want to get an idea. What you're seeing here is the Vanguard's retirement calculator that they just make available to you. I was going to say out of the goodness of their heart, but probably they're trying to get you to open a Vanguard account, but you don't have to do that. You can just use the calculator for free. You're going to plug in your retirement scenario that you're thinking about. So I'm just going to say, for example, somebody who's 30 years old, trying to retire at age 62. Let's see, maybe they make $60,000 a year. Okay. And then this is asking how much you currently save toward retirement. Maybe you save 0 currently. That's totally fine. We'll leave it at 0 and see what happens. You don't save anything toward retirement now. That's totally fine. And let's say that you have nothing saved currently. So this is asking you how much of your current savings you have toward retirement. You could put in a dollar amount in there if you want. But let's leave it at 0. See what happens. And this is the income replacement target you're targeting. Let's do 80%, just to be kind of conservative. And when Gene Hilliard comes on, he's going to tell you that he's going to try to get you to target 100%. He will want you to have 100% income replacement. Now, this number here, expected annual return, this should be a number probably between 2 to 3% and 7%. The idea here is that when you save extra money, you are going to put your money somewhere that is a diversified investment where you can expect to earn certain percentages over long periods of time. Now, if you look at how much the market earns in short periods of time, it could be 2%, 7%, 20%, negative 11%. That's over the short term. If you look at long periods of time, the market tends to earn, maybe 7%. So that's actually at Acera we expect to earn on our investments. So that's why I say it should be somewhere between like a 2 and 3% is some very safe investments. 7%, you're putting a little bit of risk out there when you're putting your money out there. But really, if you're investing your money in the market over the long term, you will find that the percentage that you earn has the opportunity to be greater. So I'm going to put in 6% here to be a little conservative. The reason I chose this calculator is it lets me put in a Social Security amount. So this is my estimate from Social Security. This is my estimate from Acera, $1,700 and $2,200. Then I'm going to hit calculate. What you are seeing are two bar graphs. The left one, the green one, represents how much I will have in retirement in my scenario above, and the left one represents how much more I might need to save. Okay. So in this scenario, the light green is the pension, the dark green is the Social Security, and you can see there's a little gap here. I'm not going to quite have enough between my Acera pension and my Social Security. Let me actually bump up the income just so there's a little bit more of a gap, because when you get there, you will likely find that there's a little bit more of a gap. What happened? Than what was originally being displayed. Okay, so you're like needing to make up $400 here in retirement of regular income. And so what you need to do is just start seeing how much you might save. You come back up here and you're going to recalculate it. What happens if I save $500 per year toward my retirement? I'll hit recalculate. Well, it didn't make much of a difference. What happens if I save $5,000 per year? I'm going to hit recalculate. Kind of overshot it there. So I don't actually need to save that much if I don't want to. And especially if I don't have the money. So let me divide that in half. Hit recalculate. Okay, now it's kind of even. So what this is saying is, in this scenario where I'm 30 years old, I'm going to retire at age 62. This is how much I make. I'm targeting 80% income replacement. I need to save $2,500 of my salary, which is almost 4% of my salary. And it might sound like a lot, but if in this scenario, but if you divide it up over 26 pay periods, about $9,600 per pay period. So maybe you can find $100 extra per pay period to save additionally toward retirement. Maybe you can't find that much. Maybe you can find 50 or 20. My recommendation is just to get started. Maybe if at $20 or $50, you're not pointed at the trajectory of 80% income replacement, but maybe you're pointed at 75% income replacement. Just get pointed in a direction. Come back, do the calculator again. It will tell you maybe a different amount and you can readjust. Maybe you can bring it up to the $100 and you'll get pointed at 80%. You come a year later, do the calculator again. Maybe do it every year and just keep calculating it every year and just keep getting pointed in that income replacement trajectory that you're looking for. And what you will find is that when you get there, when it comes time to retire, you will have achieved the income replacement that you are looking for. So that's my spiel for that. I'll let you go through the other slides on your own because I really want to turn it over to Gene Hilliard because he's the real financial expert. There's a little bit more information on here about what interest means and the power of compound interest, being cautious with where you park your extra savings because there is risk out there. And generally, the higher the potential interest, the higher the financial risk. And then there's more information about where you can park additional money, especially the 457B program, and where you can get more help, including opening a 457B account. You can do it for as little as $20 a month, and you can get free access to Gene, and he can help you really get in that trajectory. Sorry to go through that a little bit quickly. If you go back to that page that I showed you with the all of the links that take you to the retirement calculators, that's our planning page at sarah.org/planning. That is a whole article that will take you through, more slowly what I just took you through rather quickly. And you can go at your own pace and read the information at your own pace. And it will help you kind of, take your stress level down about the prospect of, saving additional for retirement and making a picture of what your future retirement income you can expect. Okay, so that ends the Acera portion of the information. So I just want to thank you for spending this time with me. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jean Hilliard, who should be in the meeting already. Jean, are you there?
I'm here, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good.
Sorry to cut into your time again. I think I need to expand this webinar another 15 minutes.
I think this is this is fine.
Okay.
Take whatever time you need. I can condense my presentation. You're inviting me. I'm a guest, so I don't want to infringe on your time. No worries.
Well, I really appreciate you being here and educating our members on their ability to save additional with the power of the 457B government savings account.
Absolutely.
And to all of the people that are thanking me, you are absolutely welcome. Thank you for coming and learning about your pension benefits. There's a question, will the information be available after the Zoom meeting? Yeah, it's out on if you go to acera.org/seminars, there's a link to the slides that I just showed you. And I will type that page in. But give me 15 minutes after the presentation to update the presentation with the changes that I made this morning. Okay, Jean, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Your presentation is up and looks great.
Perfect, perfect. Well, good morning. My name is Jean Hilliard. I'm Vice President, Financial Advisor of Emerge Financial Group. We're a financial services company in Oakland providing financial planning. We do taxes for folks. We do accounting for small businesses. A little bit about my background. My firm was hired roughly 13 years ago, at the time by Prudential Retirement, which, as Mike said, is now Empower Retirement. So we were hired roughly 13 and a half years ago. And we were hired to provide retirement planning investment guidance. So we're going to give you guidance in terms of how to manage your deferred compensation assets. And I'm a retirement counselor. And my goal as a retirement counselor is to help each and every one of you maintain your current lifestyle in retirement. What does that mean? Well, my goal is to help you get to 100% of your salary. Right? Now, as Mike mentioned earlier, you don't necessarily need 100% because there's a lot of costs that go away in retirement. For example, do you have to pay into Acera when you retire? The answer is no. Will you continue to pay into deferred comp when you're retired? The answer is no. Will you still have to continue to pay Social Security taxes? The answer is no. So there's a lot of costs that go away in retirement. So you don't necessarily need 100%. But, I'm of the opinion more is better, right? More gives you additional options for doing extra things in retirement. So let's shoot for 100. But if we need to settle for 70, 80, 90%, so be it. Now, how do you get to 100%? Well, for many of you, you're going to be halfway there. Figure you're going to get 50 to 60% of your salary for the rest of your life through Acera. And when you throw in Social Security, that's probably another 10%. So you're short roughly 30%. How do you cover that 30%? Well, there's the deferred compensation program, right? So let's talk a little bit about it. I'm going to spend maybe roughly 20, 30 minutes going through the presentation. And then if there's time, we'll answer some questions towards the end. So let's talk about the importance of deferred comp. Well, the first thing is important for all of you to know. It's very easy, right? It's very, very simple. You know, you don't have to worry about, all right, I'm going to pay all my bills, and if there's money left over, I'm going to put that in deferred comp. Because you and I both know there's never really any money left over. You have an accounting in your head, you're thinking about possible future expenses, there's never any money left over. So guess what? How do we fix that? We take it from you before you even actually get your paycheck. So you're paying yourself first. That is the key to creating wealth, is you got to always pay yourself first. I'm sure many of you have heard that before. So money comes out of your paycheck, whether you can do a specific dollar amount. You can say, Gene, I want you to put $100 in deferred comp, 200, 300, 500, or, which I prefer, you can put in a percent of your salary. Why is a percent my preferred method? Well, as you get raises, if you use a percent, it's going to automatically increase the amount of money that's going into deferred comp if you use a percent of your salary. Versus if you use a dollar amount, you have to remember to go back in to increase that dollar amount, given your recent raise. A percent automatically bumps it up, right? So again, it's very easy to save for your future. So I love it. It comes out of your paycheck. So when you don't see it, you don't spend it, and therefore you don't use it on something you really don't need necessarily. Okay, now you can invest in deferred comp pre-tax. So if your salary is about similar, hasn't changed much over the years, if you put money into deferred comp pre-tax, and let's say you normally get a tax refund, well, guess what? That's going to increase by putting money away pre-tax. That's going to increase your tax refund in many cases. Now check with your tax person. But in many cases, if you normally get a refund, your salary is about the same, you put money into deferred comp pre-tax, you're going to get a bigger refund. Or if you normally always owe, you're going to be able to cut your tax bill because we're reducing your taxable income. You can also invest in the Roth version of deferred comp. Now, this is not a Roth IRA. This is a Roth 457B. So I want everyone to write that down. Deferred comp is also known as a 457B. That's the tax code. It's not a 401k. It's not a 403B. It's a 457B. So you can invest your money in the Roth version of deferred comp. There's tax benefits of going this route. Now you're paying taxes today when you use the Roth. So you're going to pay taxes. That's not going to affect your tax liability. So if you normally owe, you're going to end up owing roughly the same amount if you invest in the Roth. What's the benefit though? Well, let's say hypothetically over your career, you put $100,000 in the Roth version of deferred comp, and that $100,000 grew to $500,000. Well, guess what? There's a $400,000 gain that is tax-free to you. Now, I'm sure some of you are a little cynical. Why would the IRS allow me to get away with not paying taxes on $400,000? There must be a catch. Well, there is a catch, and it's not that severe. As long as you're 59 and a half, as long as the account has been open for at least 5 years, you don't have to pay taxes. So 59 and a half, 5 years, there's no taxes. Okay, so you can invest in the Roth, you can invest in the pre-tax version of deferred comp, but you cannot exceed the max, whatever the max is based upon your age, between the two types of accounts, right? What is the max? Well, if you're under 50, the maximum this year is $22,500. $22,500 is the max for 2023. And if you're 50 and over, the IRS will allow you to put away an additional $7,500, bringing your total to $30,000 a year. The IRS wants to give folks who are maybe behind in terms of saving an opportunity to catch up. Speaking of catch up, there is something that is called the 3-year catch-up. This will allow you to put away $45,000 a year into deferred comp. $45,000 a year into deferred comp, provided that you qualify. Who do you talk to find out if you're qualified? Contact Darnell Williams. So Darnell, DARNELL.Williams at acgov.org. And tell him, hey, I just sat through a presentation that Gene was presenting. He talked a little bit about the 3-year catch-up. I want to find out if I qualify. So just reach out to him. Now, you may have some money sitting in a credit union. Maybe it was an inheritance. Maybe you've been saving over the years. It's in the credit union or it's at your local bank, hardly earning any money. And you want to get that money into deferred comp. Can you write me a check for $45,000 for me to put it into your account? The answer is no. Why? Because this plan is set up where it must come from your paycheck, right? So how do you indirectly get that 45 grand into deferred comp? You do it by telling deferred comp, the treasurer's office, hey, I want you to take, I don't know, half my paycheck, right? I want you to take half my paycheck. And so when you get paid, you only have half your paycheck, or we've almost taken the whole thing. You need to pay your bills. Well, you can just go to the credit union, go to that bank account to pay your bills until that account dwindles down to a number you feel comfortable with. And then you can just basically go back to the treasurer's office, deferred comp unit, and say, I want you to put it back to 5% the way I had it before, or I want you to put it back to $500 a paycheck. So that's how you can indirectly get money on the outside into deferred comp. But contact Darnell Williams. All right, here's a slide I want to show you guys. It makes the point of why it's important to start investing in deferred comp as soon as possible. So here's an example of a person who's 25 years old. They've come to see me. Given their circumstances, right, I tell them that they should invest $500 a month, or I'm sorry, $300 a month. This person plans on retiring at age 65. So 40 years, they're looking at a balance of $575,000. Pretty significant amount of cash to supplement their income. Will that make a dent into that 30% that they need to get 100%? You betcha. And this is assuming a very conservative 6% rate of return. Here's another hypothetical example of a person who's 35. They too want to retire at age 65. They're investing, because they waited 10 years, it's going to cost them a little bit. So I'm encouraging them to put in $500 a month. They want to retire at age 65. You're looking at roughly $490,000. And here's a person, 45 years of age, $1,000 a month, 20 years, they're looking at $455,000. So the point of this slide is, yes, we want you to start as soon as possible. Start yesterday, right, into deferred comp. But all is not lost if you're delayed in your savings. You can still create a pretty significant amount of cash in deferred comp. Just a matter of getting it done, making it happen. Some of you probably have come from a different agency. Maybe you worked at San Francisco, San Joaquin, Napa County, right? Contra Costa is a popular destination or a popular place where people are coming from into Alameda County. And you have a deferred comp plan that maybe is not earning a lot, sitting around idle. Or maybe you've worked at a for-profit company in a 401k that's not earning a whole heck of a lot of money. You don't want to cash those accounts out because there's significant taxes and penalties. Do not cash them out, but you can roll that money into deferred comp, right? So just contact me. I can walk you through the process. There's certain paperwork that you'll need to complete. Contact me, contact Jason, contact Mark. We'll help you complete the necessary paperwork to roll your money into deferred comp. But be thoughtful about it, because you don't want to roll in money into deferred comp when the plan you were at is better, right? You may want to leave it over there. So we'll offer some advice on whether or not it makes more sense to roll your money into deferred comp. Now, I will tell you, when it comes to these types of plans, it's all about size. It's all about dollars and cents. The bigger the plan, the better the investments, the better performance. Not always, but in many cases. Deferred comp, Alameda County has roughly $1 billion in this plan. Huge plan. 8,000 employees are participating, right? So it's a pretty big plan. So I can tell you, investments are great, cost structure is great. So let's have a thoughtful conversation whether or not it truly makes sense to roll your money into deferred comp. A lot of talk these days about income inequality, right? That's the big buzzword since 2008, right? What does that mean? Income inequality. That's where people are concerned that the top 1% of our nation is really hoarding the vast majority of the wealth in this country. And it just doesn't seem fair, right? It seems like, you know, your regular working person, middle-class person, hasn't really seen their salary rise that much as of late, right? How do we figure out how to even the playing field? How can poor middle class create wealth? Well, I can tell you back in 2008, 2007, there were Alameda County employees that were able to create wealth by leveraging their deferred comp, right? What do I mean by leveraging? Well, you borrow against deferred comp to buy real estate, to buy investment property. Now, you want to be responsible, right? Because this account is really supposed to be for your retirement and for your future. But you can use it short term if you're responsible and you're looking to create wealth. This is what a lot of Alameda County employees did back in 2007, 2008. You have a house in 2006 or 7 that was worth $500,000. We had this crisis. People were losing their homes. That same house is worth $2.50, 50 cents on the dollar. Wouldn't it have been nice if you had the necessary cash? Because many of you have a pretty stable job with Alameda County, right? Wouldn't it have been nice to be able to take advantage of those opportunities, right? Well, I got to tell you, folks within the county borrowed against deferred comp to purchase that same real estate that was worth $500,000, now worth $250. So the way this works, the lending works, you're borrowing from yourself. You're lending money to yourself with interest. What is the interest? The interest is typically the prime rate plus 1%. I think prime is around 8, 7. So the interest is a little high now, but the good news is you're paying it back to yourself. So it's not like it's going to a bank. It's not like it's going to Empower. It's going back into your account. So whatever you borrow is continuing to grow over time because you're paying it back. All right. So if you have deferred comp right now and you're interested in borrowing against deferred comp, you can call Empower directly. You can contact me. We can have a conversation to see if it makes sense. But again, be responsible with this money. Don't just borrow money just because you can, because this is all you got, right? You want to make sure you're thoughtful, and it needs to last for the rest of your life. Okay. Investing. Here's where people get a little tripped up and they kind of pause for a moment. The investment piece. You're not an expert. You're not a guru. You know, I need some help here. But there's some of you that maybe, quite frankly, are interested in the market. Pay attention. Maybe you want to create your own portfolio. You can, but you know, you want to make sure you do your homework. There's roughly 15 investments in deferred comp. If you're the type of person that appreciates companies that are socially responsible, there's an investment in here for you. If you're the type of person that prefers to invest in index funds because they're less expensive, similar to Vanguard, there's investments in here for you. If you're not interested in taking on any risk, you don't want to see your account go down in value ever, there is an investment in here for you. That's called the Alameda County Stable Value Fund. But if you're looking to just create a diversified portfolio of different asset classes, you want some small cap, mid cap, large cap, international, bonds, cash, etc., we have a full array of investments in deferred comp that you can take advantage of. So if you need some more information about these funds, just go to AlamidaCountyDCP.com, click on the investment options, and take a peek at the fund fact sheets of all the investments that are available. But again, many of you are experts at what you do. Investments is not your forte. You need some help. Well, we have a great asset allocation tool called GoalMaker. It's an award-winning tool that was created. What you need to do is just tell us what your investor style is. Are you conservative? Are you moderate? Are you an aggressive investor? If you're unsure about your investor style, we have a risk tolerance questionnaire that you can take. So you can reach out to me, you can log online, and I can help you find where that risk tolerance questionnaire is. You'll check some boxes, and then it'll automatically score you moderate or conservative or aggressive. The other thing you want to tell us is when you anticipate retiring. I'm going to retire at 75, 65, 60. Tell us when you anticipate retiring. So once you give us that information, we will create an investment portfolio for you. GoalMaker will create it. It'll have a full array of different investments. A couple of features. There's automatic rebalancing that's available in deferred comp, right? What is that? Well, let's say hypothetically you scored, I don't know, aggressive, and your portfolio consists of 80% stocks, stock funds, 20% bonds and cash. And let's say hypothetically over time, because that's how the market's going up and down. This is how the market works. Your 80% of stocks is now 90. That's way too risky for your risk tolerance. Even though you're aggressive, 90-10 is too aggressive for you. How do we get you back to the appropriate asset allocation for you? Well, we sell some of your stocks and we buy some of the bonds and cash to get you back to 80-20. So that's automatic rebalancing. What is the benefit of that? Well, it takes the emotions out of investing, because many of you, maybe if you're in deferred comp, maybe you log on to deferred comp every day and it stresses you out and you're seeing your money go down in value, and people tend to make poor decisions. But with automatic rebalancing, it takes the emotion out of investing. So once a quarter, twice a year, we're going to go in and do the buying and selling. So it's a built-in strategy where you're automatically selling high and buying low. Selling high, buying low is the key, one of the keys to successful investing. The other feature that's available with GoalMaker is age adjustment. Makes total sense. As you get closer and closer to retirement, the account automatically gets more and more conservative. So you're taking some of your winnings off the table, you're putting them in safekeeping. Why? Because you're going to need the money soon, right? And you don't have the time to allow your money to grow, right? This system uses conventional wisdom. The younger you are, the further away from retirement you are, the more aggressive you should be. The closer you are to retirement, the more conservative you should be. So this process of age adjustment automatically makes the account more conservative as you age. So that's GoalMaker. Okay, what's next? What do I do now? For those folks who are currently in the plan, outstanding, you might want to consider increasing your contributions. I typically tell folks that an optimal percent of your salary that should go into deferred comps around 10%, right? But typically it's based upon, I need more information to give you a specific number, right? But if you're 20 years away from retirement, you have no idea what your bills are going to look like in retirement. You have no idea roughly how much you need. So it's tough for me to tell you specifically. So I like 10%. So go with 10%. 10% is too much. Just drop it down to 5 and then schedule an appointment, but put some money away. So what's the next step? Well, enroll in the plan. Log on to AlamedaCountyDCP.com. Click on enroll in the plan. Don't click on register. Click on enroll in the plan. Once you've started this process of enrolling in the plan, don't stop, because you're going to end up getting distracted, and then it may be 6 months before you actually sign up. So once you start this process, see it all the way through. Where people sometimes pause or want to just stop this process is when we ask for beneficiary information. Maybe you don't have your spouse's social security number, or maybe you don't have the kids' social security numbers readily available to you. So you stop so you can look for it. Well, I don't want you to do that. Put in the person's name, put in the relationship, put in the phone number, the address, and keep it moving. We can get social security numbers later. Okay, we don't need it right now. We can get it later. The other area where people stop and want to do research is on the investment side, right? But here's what I want you to do. Just use GoalMaker with age adjustment. Just choose that option, right? Just choose a moderate portfolio for a person that's going to retire. Leave the defaulted age to 65. Just leave it, right? And then keep it moving, and then follow through and do the DocuSign. You can always reach back out to me later or talk to your financial advisor later about whether or not GoalMaker is truly appropriate for you. It takes 1 full month before a contribution can take place. So there's time. My point here is I just want to make sure you get signed up. You don't get distracted, because time is in many cases of the essence. Remember, there's a huge difference between years in terms of how much money you can create over time. The sooner you start, the better. Okay. Now, for those folks who are already in the plan and they want to increase their contributions, go to the same website, and then you can see on the screen, there's a button here where it says increase your contributions. Click on that and then follow the prompts in terms of increasing the amount of money that's going into deferred comp. Now, once you've already signed up, once you've seen your first contribution take place, the next step is now to register. So just log on Alameda County DCP, same website, click on the register, and then create a user ID and password. What do you get there? You can pull down statements, you can look at performance, you can use this great tool called the Retirement Income Calculator. So it's very similar to that Vanguard calculator that Mike was talking about earlier. But within the Empower site, it already knows how much you're contributing to deferred comp. So you don't have to enter any additional information, with the exception of, it also includes Social Security, a rough estimate of how much you're going to get from Social Security. But what you will need to do is to log on to Acera, pull down whatever the number is that you're going to get from Acera in retirement. You're going to need to enter that into the retirement income calculator. And if you have any other retirement assets on the outside, you'll need to enter that information into the system. And then it'll pretty much tell you if you're on track, where you stand, right? It'll either give you a surplus, which is good news, or it may say, hey, you're going to be short. You need to either A, put more in, or B, retire later. Okay, put more in, retire later. Retiring later is unacceptable, right? I want you to get out of Dodge as soon as you can. And if that means that you're going to need to sacrifice a little bit to and put more into deferred comp, that's what it's important that you do that, because the last thing you want to do is go through to an Acera meeting, assuming you're going to retire, right? And then you find out that whatever you're going to get from Acera is not enough, and then you have to continue to work, because that happens. Mike can probably attest to that, but I've heard of situations where people assumed they were going to retire. They found out they don't have deferred comp, and then they find out they're not getting as much as they thought from Acera. So they end up having to retire at 70, 75. So even if you get in there and they're not telling you that you're getting as much as you thought from Acera, you always have deferred comp to fall back on to make up the difference. Okay, very important. This whole retirement planning process is, you're not alone. It's not 100% on you. We have 3, if I might say so myself, fantastic financial advisors that are here to help. You have Mark Tomei on the left. You have Jason Brumman on the right, myself in the middle. That was a 13-year-old picture when I had a little hair. So it's a little low. I may need to update that, but contact us. How do you get a hold of us? Well, you can call this 855 number. So it's 855-969-4572. Hit option, I believe it's option 3 to schedule an appointment. You can log online to this website, Alameda County DCP, click on personalized guidance to schedule an appointment. You can, if you want to bypass the website and the phone numbers, you can call my office directly, 510-562-6355, 510-562-6355, or you can email me at G_Hilliard, HILLIARD, at emergefinancial.com. Okay, so with that, I'd love to entertain any questions that you guys might have. Fire away.
Thank you so much, Gene. That was so awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.